Welcome all. Thank you all for coming. This meeting is being recorded, the Zoom meeting, so anyone who didn't come can watch it if they are so inclined. For that purpose, today is August 1, and we're having this special meeting to discuss the pool project. Paul and David are here with me. Both Nicole Asquith and Yami Healy are online, unable to attend for medical reasons, but are here with us virtually. So most of you know this story, but let me just give you the quick overview, and then we invite comment from any and all. Back in 2017, we had a detailed report about our pool by a consultant named Maurice Rangel, who had also looked at the pool several times previously. And he came back with a detailed report in 2017 that basically said the pool continues to work. It is showing signs of deterioration in various ways, some of which are fundamental. And the pool no longer meets the current code. It's a safe pool. We're annually inspected. We have an annual certification, but that pool exists then in 2017 and today in a circumstance where we are a pre-existing non-conforming pool and we can do basic maintenance, but we cannot make significant changes without upgrading the pool to the current standards. So the key areas that are deficient based on the current code are that recirculation system that brings the water back into a tank through the filters and back into the pool, and also the drain system. The resolution of that in the current pool would be at very substantial expense at the time. This is 2017, perhaps $1.5 million to rebuild all the scuppers all around the pool, put new pipes on the floor of the pool, and then pour 3 feet of concrete on top of that. And the result of that at then numbers million and something, likely now 3 million and something, would give us exactly the same pool we have now, 3 feet shallower in the deep end. And that pool would still be connected to 60 and 70-year-old infrastructure under the deck, and it would still be connected to a filter room that is below grade and floods literally 7 feet of water to the ceiling in extreme rains. So nobody thought then, and I think nobody thinks now, that that's a logical option. So that gave rise to a long process that lots of you have been involved in. Troy and Jim and the others on the pool committee at the end of 2020, early 2021, did a survey, and you'll correct me if I've got this wrong, but I think just about 1,000 people responded. Very, very heavy support for the pool. But obviously some, as you might imagine, sense that, look, we need to do this, whatever it costs, we ought to do it. And on the other hand, yes, we love the pool, we need the pool, please try to keep our chance to be at the pool as affordable as you can. All true without question. So at the time, we, after that survey and working with the pool committee, agreed to go ahead. We launched into a design process. That design process produced the result that you see on this panel that we've been talking about for a good long while. At the time we got into it, we thought that was likely in the $3.5 million range. Pandemic intervened, things slowed down. There were various procedural problems that led us to this point. We bid that pool out this spring and got back numbers, including a low bid that was substantially lower than the bid we have now. This was just a few months ago, but the low bidder then determined that they had forgotten some key elements. They withdrew their bid. And so the low bid that we had at the time was off the table. And in the end, that bidder did not bid the second time around. Long story short, here we are. We rebid the project again. The number came back just over $6 million. That's obviously far beyond the number we imagined when we got started. But I think it's pretty clear that we have seen what the market is at the moment. And in fact, the numbers we got back were not absolutely shocking based on some of the feedback we were getting from our pool consultant and the hydraulic engineer who sort of have their finger on the pulse of this industry. So here is where we are. We have a low bid of 6.0 something,
6033.
6033, $6 million. And if we were to agree to go ahead with that at our next board meeting on August 12, more on the financing of that in one moment, but if we were able to give the contractor approval to go ahead, they believe they can get going and be ready to put a shovel in the ground in September. That was our goal. Weather permitting, decent enough winter, start the work right after the pool closes after Labor Day, open the new pool at Memorial Day next year, and don't lose the pool season. If we don't make that decision now, let's say, for example, people felt it was too much money or we didn't want to vote for it, whatever, clearly we would lose that window, and that would be a minimum of a year delay. The bids would expire, there's a deadline, and we would have to bid it again. Some months back, the board approved a $5 million bond for this project. And so we have the bond authority to take out that loan now. We haven't done it yet because we haven't cut to the chase on this project, but we have a $5 million bond authority. If we're going to go to $6 million, we would need to add $1 million more in bond authority. And we would do that at our August 12 meeting. I will say that it is possible that we would throw some cash at this instead of borrowing all of it, but that is a matter to be determined down the road based on some other things. We've got various infrastructure things happening all at once. I think in terms of thinking about this, the question for us collectively is, should we borrow $6 million? Based on the debt service schedules we have, if there were no increases in pool rates, and not suggesting that would be the case, but if there were no increases in pool rates, this bond would raise the average taxpayer's property taxes by about $170 a year for the 20-year life of the bond. So there'd be $170 a year, a fixed number every year for the average taxpayer. Obviously, if your property assessment is higher, you'll pay more than that. If it's lower, you pay less, but that's the average taxpayer in Pleasantville. We have always said in this process that obviously there would need to be some kind of an increase in rates to help support this, and we'd be hopefully delivering a product that would warrant it. And we have also said, in an attempt to be fair, we would feel the need to restore a differential between village residents who pay the taxes that support this, and out of village residents, mostly school district residents who don't live in the village but are in the school district. These are people we want and love to have at our pool, many of them no doubt in the room. But if we were to undertake this and the average taxpayer is paying $170 a year to have funded it, a taxpayer who's in the town of Mount Pleasant but in the school district isn't paying for that, and so there would be a differential in the rates. Very round figures, we've taken a look at what the rates are. It's just interesting to let you know, and some of you probably already know this, but at the moment, there are early bird rates both for the village and for the Mount Pleasant pool, which we all have the right to join. And then there are regular rates mostly after June 1. So just focusing on the regular rates at the moment, this year, right now, our family membership in our pool is $480. A family membership in the Mount Pleasant pool for someone who lives in the village is $1,103. So that's $623 more to join the Mount Pleasant pool. And again, the basis for that is village residents are paying a pretty small tax to the town of Mount Pleasant. Those outside the villages are paying a property tax that is helping support the pool, and therefore this differential. So today's rates right now, $480 family, $240 individual, $95 for senior. And those rates, if you were to join the Mount Pleasant pool, $1,103, $439, and $161. So a very significantly higher in the case of family, more than double. So I point that out simply to say, some have said, hey, why do we have a pool? You can always join the Mount Pleasant pool. First off, it's quite a bit more expensive. And secondly, I can tell you, having spoken to Mount Pleasant, and maybe you all have some experience with it, the Mount Pleasant pool is getting pretty crowded on weekends, and they cannot accommodate everybody who once went to the Pleasantville pool. So that would turn into a different problem, how that would all be addressed is unclear. But what I can say is, at least in draft, we're imagining, and I say this totally in draft for further discussion, rate increases that might be in the range of 40%, so that a current family membership, again, early bird has a discount from this. Today it's 440. It might go up by $190 to something like $670. That is still well below the 1103 for that family in the village to join in the town of Mount Pleasant. So those are sort of the ballpark numbers we're imagining. If we raise the rates in that approximate manner, that would likely bring the cost to the average taxpayer down to in the neighborhood of $120 instead of $170, because part of the debt service is being funded by these increased membership fees. It's obviously all a speculative game. Rates go up, but we have a new pool. Do people vote with their feet in different ways? We don't know, but I can say we've had really strong enrollment in the last several years. We have over 2,000 people are members of the pool. That counts everybody in each family. But it's been a great and vibrant environment, and one that's been part of Pleasantville for 100 years. So here we are. We spend a lot of our time trying to make this place as affordable as possible in a world where I don't know where regular people are going to end up living. But I will also say that it's been important, I think, to all of us, and likely to most of you in the room, that this may not be the grandest pool, it may not be the fanciest pool, but it's a place where people from every walk of life who live here come together and share the pool. And I can speak for my own family, and I know that that's true for so many families. It was a really big part of my kids growing up here. And I can also say we've got like 300 senior and individual members, so it's not just families. So there you have it. That's the lay of the land. And we're at a decision. Should we go ahead and do this, get borrowing authority for another $1 million and raise your taxes in the way I just described and raise rates in the way I just described, round figures? Or is there something else we could, should, or might do? So I just want to say that further to the issue I mentioned right up front about the fact that the current pool currently does not meet code, is that if something significant happened, some serious failure in the recirculation system, the pool would shut down and we would have no pool. And then we would all have to put heads together to say, what do we do now? So there is no question that the pool we have right now does not have a long-term future without a big investment. So a decision not to do anything would need to be a decision that says, okay, when it dies, we're okay not having a pool. Or a decision that says, oh my God, it's just too much, we can't do it. Maybe the world will be easier, better in some way in the future. So
There's some seats up front.
Yeah.
On the right.
I can say, and I've talked to a few folks about this who have said, the pool is fine the way it is. We don't need to spend this money. And that's an understandable view until you dig into it. Those people want a pool, but they feel as though we don't need to make it fancier, better, whatever than it is. The reality is it can't stay the way it is for the long term, or we will not have a pool. And it's not fear-mongering to say that could happen tomorrow, although I have no reason to think it will, but it definitely won't last. So there you have it. You guys have anything to add before we invite comments of all sorts?
Yes, so my opinion on this as well that concerns me is that the pool is an integral part of our summer camp that we run. Which the summer camp itself is also an integral part of helping all the working families that need to send their kids somewhere. If we're looking at our camp costs in general in comparison to private camps, it's significantly lower. In speaking to the Parks and Recreation Department and Mike Newman specifically, they rely on that pool a lot. They alternate the junior camp and the senior camp, and it's such a huge part of the camp itself. I think everyone's experienced in the past when there were issues with the pool and it was a last minute that it was going to be closed and people were going to Mount Pleasant. it's an incredibly difficult thing to plan when you have made these plans as a working family and you have your kids going to a certain place and something malfunctions and now the pool's closed and now you have to set up a pickup either at the school. Now we're also burdening BRS who's holding these camps. So it's to me to go with the idea that let's just wait to see what happens or let's not take action. It worries me as any kind of business that you were running, if your main machine that you're using to run is clearly not compliant, it's clearly on the verge of breaking down, it's almost a bit negligent to continue to function this way. There's a lot of people that essentially rely on the pool. Obviously, it's something that's used from essentially May 31st till about September 1st. But it does have its uses that it's so well, really as a cog of I think the village. The other aspect is this is an investment. We're talking about 50 years or so ago. This investment was made by then the village and the board. And it has served us. It has served us well. Grew up in Pleasantville. I've been going to that pool for over 30 years. And it's got some of the best memories that I can remember. And I'm sure many of you have the same. We've been kicking this issue down the road to the next person, to the next board. But we're almost at a point where we have to make a decision. And it's not an easy decision. Obviously, the concern with how much the cost is going to be, but I do think that if we continue to go forward this, it's only going to go up in price. And even if we do decide to essentially say, okay, maybe we should just end the pool in total, it's still going to cost us to also, we can't just close it and leave it alone. We actually have to essentially demolish the pool and all that. And there's a cost to that. We were possibly estimating what, 2 million?
Yeah, $1.5 million, something like that.
To essentially,
get rid of the pool.
to get rid of the pool.
And folks have said, well, we could put a field there. I mean, that area wants to be a swamp. And as soon as there's not a pool there, the swamp's coming back. So it's really not.
And the last point that I have is then the comparison in the projects that, where are we allocating the money that we have? Should we be spending $6 million on a pool that we only use essentially 3 months a year? Or should we put that into something else? Like there's been talk of trying to build a rec center. Trying to do that, first we have to buy the property. Second of all, as we all can see, Pleasantville is very scarce with property, and whatever property is there is at a very, very high value. So, it's something that we currently don't have available. If we were to then just buy the property, then we'd have to build it, which just by seeing with building a pool itself, how expensive it is, imagine actually building a building. The next part of it is actually trying to get the personnel to run something like a rec center. Right now, our biggest cost in our budget is payroll, insurance, which I think everyone knows in most businesses is skyrocketing. To actually think that we can hire more people to run something like that, it's going to cost us even more money. So it's not just about let's save the $6 million on the pool and just put it somewhere else. I don't think it can be allocated that simply. I do think that we have to focus on what to do here and what's really best for everyone. Lastly, in the request that there's been talk of perhaps putting this on a referendum. I do think that, having the voice of all our residents is important, but part of that is what we've been doing. We have been working on this specific issue for years, since it was first studied in 2017 and then in 2021, when there was a survey done and it's been discussed at length. For us to put something on a referendum, let's say at the next election, I think in general, and just speaking to a lot of different people, I do think that there's a good chance it would pass. And if it does pass, we're back into the same place that this has now passed. We now have, everyone wants a pool in theory because, the people have spoken, but now we've missed the opportunity to really not lose a season, a pool season. We don't know what's going to happen. We had to replace a liner in the past, and then there was flooding, and then we had to replace it again. And that was just recent. So my concern is that, we keep saying, we'll take care of it, we'll deal with it, but at some point it's going to make it very, very difficult for us to function. So those are, my opinion on all of this. Obviously, I'm going to very detailedly listen to what everyone has to say today. And again, I apologize that I can't be here for the rest of the meeting, but I will definitely pay attention to everything that everyone says. And I've been reading all the emails that people have sent us, and I appreciate your input. So thank you for coming here and expressing your opinions on this. So thank you very much.
I just want to add a couple things very briefly to what Paul said. When you think about the role of camp, that's obviously important to lots of parents for lots of different reasons. I have 3 kids. Next year, they'll be in each one of our schools, one of them in each. And they've all gone to Pleasantville Camp. But for some parents, it's even more important than it is for many of us. A couple of years ago, we started a scholarship to allow parents whose children qualify for SNAP, for supplemental nutrition, basically parents who cannot afford $5 a day for lunch for their kids, to allow them to join the camp. This year, the awareness spread of that. We had some tremendous volunteer efforts that people in the community did to add to our fund. And we have 20 kids now going to the camp. Frankly, some of whom their parents would probably not be able to work if they were not at camp. So this has an economic impact. And from my perspective, it's not charity, it's economics. If we can't afford to have people living in our community who can work here, that means they're commuting and we have to pay them more, and all the business owners have to pay them more. And it becomes a vicious spiral. And we've all seen this in Westchester, where communities become affordable for a variety of reasons. So that's one thing. One reason I believe that this is an investment in our community and not just in not just in a piece of recreational equipment. And the other thing is, I think that this everything that we do in the community, from things you may agree with to things you don't agree with, are intended to create a mosaic that creates the village that we know, where we feel responsible for each other's children, where we feel responsible for each other's grandparents, and where hopefully we get less road rage because we know it could be somebody that we know, right? Like that's the goal, right? What I just urge you to do as you're thinking about this is to realize that you can take out, it's like a Jenga puzzle. You can take out any one thing from that mosaic and it still looks sort of the way it does. But when you start to remove too many elements, it will fall apart. And you don't have to go very far to see places where it has done that. Where, the idyllic town in 1950 or 1960 still looks like it's 1950 or 1960 and it's not so idyllic anymore. So that's sort of the feeling I have approaching this, and why I think that this is maybe a bigger deal than it appears to be on the surface.
Right. Nicole or Amy, you want to say something before we open it up?
I'll make a couple comments just really quickly. Can you hear me? Yep. Okay. So I just wanted to point out that it's not only families with children who use the pool. One demographic that I've heard from on this subject is seniors. The seniors have sort of defined an area of the pool that they like to occupy. And so that was just one thing I wanted to point out, that it's actually kind of a range of different people. And then, yeah. And then I also wanted to, what's that?
Watch it, I'm getting there.
Oh. Well, as long as they reserve chairs, for us when we get to that point, right? And then I just also wanted to say, kind of piggybacking on what Paul and David have already said, that one of the things I think about a lot is the importance of public space. When I've talked to people, knocking on doors and talking to people around the village, there's always this sentiment that people want Pleasantville to maintain the spirit that it has. And I definitely always feel very proud to be from Pleasantville when I'm going around Pleasantville, because they're around Westchester, because it seems like there's something unique about it. And I think that what that comes down to more than anything is the sense of community that we have, that so many of us know each other and we encounter each other. And when you think about that in practical terms, that can only happen if we are encountering each other in person. And for that to happen, there have to be these public spaces that are shared spaces where we encounter each other. And in talking to various residents about the pool situation, I heard stories about, and actually this is true to me as well, that when they moved to Pleasantville, the first friends that they made were at the pool because it was a very easy place to encounter other people. So I just wanted to say that. I'm also looking forward to hearing what everyone has to say. I'm sure people have lots of thoughts and feelings.
If I could also just chime in really quickly before we start I just wanted to mention, so I've also been listening to everyone and agree with so many of the points that everyone on the board has been making. I grew up going to the pool, same story a lot like Paul, and used it so much, made so many friends. I use the pool with my 4 kids a lot, especially these days, to get a lot of energy out. And I think it's such a valuable space. I have a very hard time with the fact that there's unfortunately no multi-use space. It's really confined to these 3 months. There's no pavilion, there's no cover, there's no splash pad. I mean, I think that those spaces could have been incorporated in some way, and I wasn't a part of the planning by where we got to. So I really respect everybody's effort that they've put in so far. It's been years and years in the making to get us to this point. I think, Nicole, like you were saying, the public space is incredibly important, especially in Pleasantville. But my biggest gripe is that it's such a large number for only the summer months. And I wish that we could have gotten creative about it. But today, I think the discussion is based on just this design. Is it a yes or a no? And, really for me, I feel very frustrated at this point why that wasn't incorporated in any way, why we couldn't use a part of the pool. And I know staffing would have been an issue. I also know that as far as the camp goes, on many days, especially when it's raining, the entire facility or thunderstorms is shut down. The camp is not using the facility. I have 2 of my kids in the camp, so I know there's nowhere for them to go very quickly or easily. And unfortunately, I think that takes it down a notch for me. But I've been trying to listen as much as possible to every single resident that I run into about how they feel about it. Some people weren't even aware of it, like some of my neighbors. And I said, the pool, something's happening. How do you feel about it? So I'm eager to hear how everybody who's come tonight. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Okay, thank you. So we invite anybody in the room who would like to speak to come on up. We need your name and your address for the record. And then once folks in the room have finished, if anyone on Zoom wants to raise their hand, we'll go to that. Welcome, sir.
Hi, I'm Troy Tacey.
Yeah.
That good?
Yeah, honestly, the thing that's recording is the gizmo here, but I dare say we'll likely have some speakers who are not tall enough for that. So stay tuned. I hope so.
Troy Tacey, 149 Washington Avenue. So I'd like to kind of piggyback with Jim Kennedy here, who were sort of took a lead to some extent on the pool task.
More than to some extent.
But
amazing.
it might be useful. I know the board, folks that have been on the board for a long time sort of know what we did. I know there's some new board members and whatnot, and there's other folks in the community here that may not have known sort of all that went into this. I'm not going to bore everyone with tons of details, but I wanted to emphasize a few things that the task force and our work with the board, who's been very generous, giving us time to talk about this, may not be aware of. But the first thing, so the task force started in August of 2020. And the first thing that we did is we tried to make sure, as we're talking about, including all the different groups, is we made sure that on the task force itself, that we had representation for all of the different users of the pool. So we had kids with, not kids, we had parents with very, tiny tots, we had parents with kids in camp, kids on the swim team, families that weren't in any of those groups. We had individual members that were lap swimmers. We had the senior citizens that Nicole was talking about a moment ago. So we tried to have everybody have a voice initially in that task force. And then we took many of my talking points from me, so I'm going to have to adjust what I was going to say. But then one of the first things we did is we expanded all those voices even more by doing the survey. And as you mentioned, we had exactly 936 households that responded to that survey. And I want to emphasize that that was households. We had one household per response. And that, if you count up the members in those households, it was 3,500 people. So we had a lot of voices very early on in this project. And of course, you can't satisfy everyone. One of, slightly humorous to some extent in retrospect, but we had almost exactly the same number of people that said, I want more sun, as said, I want more shade, right? So that's kind of a hard one to figure out what to
Raise the cost by $1 million.
yeah. Two pools, shade. But the big things that really came out of the survey, just to speak to how we ended up with this particular design, folks really like the sort of chill vibe, if I will, of the pool. But at the same time, people also recognize that, particularly when kids got to be kind of tween age, a lot of folks started moving to the Mount Pleasant pool because, those 9, 10, 11, 12-year-old kids just got kind of bored. And so at the task force, when we started engaging with Stephen Kumis, who ended up designing the pool that the board had hired, we wanted to make sure that we kind of struck what I would call a Goldilocks pool, where we still had that, Pleasantville vibe, but we had a little bit of pizzazz for that, right? So it was sort of not hot, not too cold, but just right. And the other thing that I want to emphasize that came out of that survey, and you mentioned the increases in membership fees minutes ago of around 40%. If you look at all three of the groups, the family memberships, the individual memberships, and the senior memberships, they all reported when we asked them, how much would you pay for a new pool? They all stated, it was surprising how close it was across these groups. They all stated that they would pay approximately 50% more in memberships for a new pool. So when we talk about raising the memberships, and then again, as you did eloquently compare them to the other pools, we can pay for a big chunk of this just with our pool memberships. And that $6 million project is no longer, of course, it's still $6 million, but it's not being paid straight out of the village. It's being paid by the people that use it. And that, that brings the price down to 3.6, 3.9 million, if you want to think about it that way. The other thing that I want to comment on the design real quick, because I know there's been some comments in the community about this, and why don't we just have an old rectangular pool? So the pool designer spent a lot of time, both with the task force, with the village board. He was on site multiple times. He talked to the folks that in the rec department, he talked to the folks that do the maintenance on the pool, he talked to everybody. And he really took to heart, I think, all of the comments. And when we had the first meeting where we talked about the pool design, he gave us a whole variety of options. He gave us some rectangular pools, multiple options. He gave us a couple things that looked like this. And then we talked through the different uses in the pool. And this one by far serves the campers, the swim team, the rec families, lap swimmers far better than we could ever do with just a traditional rectangular pool. And so he really looked at the space and he asked, with a pool this size, how best can we serve what the community told us in the pool survey? So the reason that, we don't just have the old Pleasantville pool is because again, some folks, want shade and some folks want sun. So not everybody's of course going to be 100% happy, but we have this design because it matches what serves the community best. And then finally, I'm going to turn it over to Jim to just say a couple things about the history. I again want to emphasize the timing here. When we first got this basic pool design from Stephen Kumis, that was sometime in mid-2021. And we went back and forth with him and had some tweaks to the design and whatnot. But it's almost exactly 3 years from when we had that design until we're here today. So if we, in any sense, go back to the drawing board, try and do something even slightly different, we're back to drawing stuff up again, getting Department of Health approval, we're getting new approvals from the Corps of Engineers and all this other stuff. And it's going to be a 2 to 3 year process again. So not moving forward now unless we, redo this exact same thing a year from now, is probably, kicking the can down the road at least 2 or 3 years. And I think that's particularly with the current shape of the pool, that's a real risk. And I'll sort of leave it there. I tend to be a professor, so I'm very long-winded, right?
I'll turn it over to you.
So, hi, I'm Jim Kennedy, 1 Seneca Lane. And, some of you know me, some of you don't. I'm the old war horse, volunteer swim coach from 1997 to 2008. And I've got some visuals. I'm wearing one of them. I'll explain it in a minute. I was lucky enough to be asked to join the team for the task force 3 or 4 years ago, and worked very hard with Troy on the design. But I wanted to tell you a few stories, if that's okay, to give you a sense of the history of this pool and what it means to the community. So if you'll indulge me for a few minutes, I'll dig into that story. Let's start with the visuals, okay? So there's one over there that's the same as this, but this is the 1939 opening of the current pool. It was rehab, and look at these people. I guess they couldn't walk on the deck, maybe it was new, but they're all lined up in their Sunday best, and they're watching like what looks to be a demonstration diving exhibition by the current swim. So that's 1939.
Show it to the owl camera right here. There.
Got it. Thank you. So that's what, 85 years ago. So this is my tenure with my wife Cindy and my 2 daughters as coaches. These are the teams that we coach. 11 of them. Look at the numbers. Look at the people. These are the lives we touched. And that's just a swim team. That's one thing that happens at the pool. Almost forgot the shirt. The shirt. It says 1 team, 1 point, 1 winner. It's from 2001. Let me explain. We took over the team in 1997, and we blitzed right through. We were in Division 3. There's several divisions of the swim conference in Northern Westchester. We blitzed through Division 3. Was undefeated the first year. Moved up to Division 2. It took us 2 years to win that. Then they moved us up to Division 1. And the first year we were undefeated until the last meet. Got beat by the perennial champions Yorktown. And then the second year, we're undefeated again. So is Yorktown, and the last meet is home. And it was a close meet. It came down to the last race, the last relay with the 18-year-old boys. And we won on the last lap of the last race. So we win the meet by 1 point and win the championship. A week later, we went to the championship meet and we won that by 1 point too. That's the kind of experience. I don't know. I've been a part of a lot of sporting events as a fan, as a participant, as a reporter even. And I want to tell you that memory, I mean, my heart is still beating fast. So that was one of the coolest moments, maybe the coolest moment of all. But let me tell you what used to happen on a daily basis with winter coaching team. And I'm sure it still happens today. I get there about 6:45. I was the one who invented 7 a.m. practices. Sorry. Sorry. Get there about 6:45. The lap swimmers are in there. The early morning swimmers, got to kick them out. The kids come in at 7 o'clock, they're straggling in. We sit them down, talk about the goals for the week and practice and so forth. Then we get in the pool and the older kids swim really hard for an hour. And then I leave and run to the train, go to work. And my assistant coaches, the teenagers that I've worked with, took over from there and took the little kids working one-on-one with them in the different part of the pool. And then at 8:30, they left, and a couple 100 more kids come in with a day camp for 2 or 3 more hours. And then after that, what happens? The patrons come in, and everybody's having fun until the sun goes down. So to me, that's, we talk about multi-use facilities, maybe it's 3 months, but to me, that's a uniquely multi-use facility in some of us in Pleasantville. So, and it's also the go-to place, right? One person on the phone today, I was pleading with caller from the old swim team parents, and they were away, they couldn't come in, but she said, you know, what I remember is that it was a go-to place for the kids, even when they weren't on the team or when they weren't just going to day camp, is that every late in August when they announced the teachers that they're gonna have, everybody goes to the pool. To talk about who they were gonna get for teachers. Talk about the meeting places, the shared places. So
Everybody wanted Mrs. Kennedy.
Mrs. K was a very popular teacher, which is why, I could tell you another story about how we ended up coaches. They had called Mrs. K first. Mrs. K said, I don't swim, but my husband does. So why do I share all these pictures and war stories? It's really obviously important to me. I'm still passionate about it. It's the history, okay? It's the history of public swimming in Pleasantville. This is, and you see it here. Look at that picture right here. This is what happened. This is before the pool. This is the old swimming hole, the natural swimming hole. Dirt, mud. It's in the same location. And so it really goes back, as the mayor said, 100 years. Now, 90-some years ago, the leaders of Pleasantville and the taxpayers had confronted the question. What do? We got this old swimming hole, and they elected to build a pool. It was in the middle of the Great Depression, and they started a fund, private fund first, and then they got village money, and they eventually got World Harvest Administration money from the New Deal to finish the project. But they got it to provide work and pay to the unemployed people during the Depression. That's how it all started. And then 40 years later, the leaders and taxpayers stood up again and renovated the pool for another grand opening in 1975. And that's the pool that we're currently swimming. So each time around, there were bumps in the road. In that original project, after they dug the hole with a rented backhoe or a donated backhoe from a construction company, they discovered that they needed to pay a lot of money for a filtration system. I guess they didn't. I guess they figured they were just going to swim it like the natural swimming hole. And the filtration system was going to cost them at that point $6,000 or $7,000, which in today's dollars is more like $125,000. And that was additional. So they decided to go ahead even and absorb those costs. So that's happened before. They found a way forward. Let me just say, that we find ourselves today in exactly that same position. And of the three options that we discussed at the last meeting, only one ensures the current viability of the pool going forward. The consultants report in 2017 that I actually have here, if anybody wants to read it, I give them a copy. Recommended a long list of things that need to be fixed that we're going to pay. And even fixing some of those, it's going to cost millions of dollars, and that will lead other aging systems to eventually fail. So that was option, one. Option two is let's not do anything. Let's just see what happens. And of course, we've seen what happens. Pool floods, needs liner, needs another liner, and so the pool that's an existential threat. I mean, the pool goes away. You have to fill it in, and there's expenses with that. Believe me, I mean, you got to make it. You got to create an environmentally sensitive plan for reuse of the property, whatever that might be, and there's really no other comparable public use of that land. So this is our moment. Just like the moment in 1932 that led to that to the first pool. And just like the moment in the late sixties that led to the reopening in 1975, this is our moment to go forward and to pay back those courageous people who made those moves back then. And it's our, and now to pay it forward to the next generation who will enjoy the benefits like all of us have enjoyed, like you're enjoying right today. These kids on a team. This is our opportunity to ensure we have it by next 2025. I'm going down the slide right after the mayor.
No, you're first.
I'll be first. We almost have to do this to preserve the village that we have. And I'm sorry the costs have gone up. It's been 3 years of delays. Nobody's to blame for that. We vetted every last thing. We vetted the flooding problems twice. And here we are with the price tag. And let's face up to it now. Let's not kick it down the road again and come up with a different plan. Let me say one thing about the design. People call it extravagant. That's not extravagant. That's the same footprint. And we made it better. We put in zero entry so you can tippy toe in. We moved the swing lanes this way so we have play area for the full expanse and that slide. So this is not extravagant. I'm sorry, I'm getting all worked up. Let me just wrap up by speaking from the heart if you don't believe me already. Living in a small town like this is a privilege. Okay? And it's the things that we choose to believe in and to commit to that make all the difference. To us individually, to our families, and to the community at large. Just ask the people who got behind the Jacob Burns Theater. Just ask the people who started the farmers market. Think about the people who started the green space project recently that are good. They're all thinking about how to improve Pleasantville. And this is really important asset that absolutely needs to be preserved. Mr. Mayor, I know that you know this better than anyone. Under your leadership and your long tenure, the projects that you've led have led to an unprecedented revitalization of this village. There are more things to do, more places to go, more development in four corners of this village than when I moved in here 40 years ago. This pool could be and should be the capstone to all of that. And so I urge you, Mr. Mayor and the board members, to cement not only your own legacies, but the 100-year legacy of the public swimming facility in Pleasantville, and approve this project next week and go forward with the shovels in September. Thank you.
Hard act to follow, Jonathan.
Well, I'm not gonna go into a lot of history.
Just give us your name and address.
My name is John Blackman. I live at 326 Bedford Road in Pleasantville. Like so many of us, my kids used the pool, both in day camp and afterwards. I took them there. I swam there myself. I spent many a happy afternoon at the pool over the years. The pool is an essential part of the village of Pleasantville. As we heard in history, it has been for over 100 years. And there can't be any serious doubt that it needs to be fixed. The status quo is simply untenable. So the only issue here really is the issue that's been raised about expense. And I came here with some notes about expense and then realized that I didn't need to use them because the mayor talked about it. The thing that I found most striking, I never had realized this, I never actually compared what it costs to be a Pleasantville village resident using our pool and what we would have to pay to use the town pool. And that alone is the difference in terms of the extra taxes. We're talking about, if you factor in that, the additional tax that we're being asked to bear, particularly if you also factor in what apparently are additional fees for the pool, but most people are willing to pay, we're talking about a de minimis amount. So we're arguing like $100. It seems to me that people of Pleasantville are likely to be quite happy to pay an extra $100 a year on average on their property tax for getting a wonderful pool. And this pool is a clearly improvement. But even if it weren't, even if it was just replicated, what was there, we want to have a village pool. We don't want to have to go down to Lassa Drive and swim with a crowded place where there's tons of other people who don't go to school with our kids. We want our own village pool. That's one of the things that makes Pleasantville so special. So to me, if you add all the pluses of the pool against the really very, very small cost of doing this, yeah, sure, we'd rather not have to pay anything more. And it would have been great if we could all rewrite history and have done this some years ago. But reality is what it is. We're faced with a binary decision. Do we just let it sit and fall apart, or do we go ahead and improve it for a really very modest cost? And it seems to me the answer to that question is obvious. We go ahead with this. I don't think we did a referendum. We've elected a very capable village mayor and board to make these decisions. They weigh all these issues. People who are interested in come to these meetings and read the materials that are sent. Let's just follow the recommendations that have been made. They make sense. And let's just go ahead and do it and urge the board to go ahead and do that.
Hi, I'm Chris Homish, live at 32 Iroquois Road. So I am a second generation Pleasantville resident. My mom grew up here. I attended BRS, Pleasantville Middle School, and I'm a proud graduate of Pleasantville High School, class of '99. So 5 years ago, I was lucky enough to move back to this town with my family and attempt to give my kids the same amazing childhood that I had here. Part of my amazing childhood consists of vivid memories I have spending time at the pool. When I was a kid at the pool, it was just a great activity. You could see your friends, eat a frozen Charleston chew, and learn how to swim. I remember jumping in right after adult swim was over, playing games on the 4th of July, and after a long cross-country practice, jumping in the pool to cool down. These are all memories that I cherish and I want my kids to have. Now that I'm an adult, I have 2 kids of my own. I see that nothing's changed, but in a very good way. I love going to the pool, seeing my kids and getting them to start making these memories that I have and that I can call upon with a smile. And with that said, as a parent, I have a newfound love for our pool. It's a great place for our kids to be outside, learn how to swim, build confidence, get exercise. And as has been brought up before, both my children go to Pleasantville day camp and their favorite days are the pool days. With how hot the summers have been lately, knowing that my kids can go somewhere, cool off and have a good time is a great comfort to me. Additionally, I just had a friend text me saying, the pool can be an all-day event. Some days on Saturday or Sunday, they're just like, let's just go to the pool, we'll get there at 10 and we'll leave when we feel like it. And it gives you an opportunity as a family to spend time together, to see friends, and to most importantly, have something to do and have it be an all-day event, which I think is a multifaceted and multi-use space. When I told my children why I had to come to this meeting tonight, they immediately got upset. They didn't understand why something that gives so many people so much joy should be taken away. And my 6-year-old son just looked up at me and said, I don't want them to get rid of the pool. To me, the pool is synonymous with summer and Pleasantville. One does not exist without the other. So the idea of removing the pool altogether is a concept I not only do not support, but I can't wrap my head around. To that end, just look around this room. You have citizens from multiple generations. You have a 4-year-old up to senior citizens here, all pushing for one thing. I don't know, I've never been to a village meeting before. I don't see that, I don't think that happens very often.
Oh, we have a crowd like this every night.
I sure. So with all that said, I really just urge the board to vote in favor of, to have the necessary funds to update and improve our much beloved pool. This pool, as you know, has been pointed out, it's clearly more than just a pool. It's a community center and it's an affordable and reliable activity for everyone within this community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kathy Sable, 315 Bedford Road. I've been a resident of Pleasantville for 17 years and a member of the pool for about that long. And my daughters have all been on the swim team for about 12 years. My 2 older daughters are now lifeguards. My middle daughter was an assistant coach for the first time on the Pleasantville swim team this summer. I'm going to come at this at a slightly different angle because I'm a tax attorney and I really like numbers. So, and there are some scary numbers, okay? Drowning is a leading cause of death in 1 to 4-year-olds right now. It remains in the top 5 causes of death from children ages 5 to 17. It's the leading cause of death in autism for children and adults. It's shown that swim lessons can reduce the rate of drowning by 88%. And because of COVID and the shuttering of many pools and a lifeguard shortage, drowning deaths are on the rise. And this frightens me because now I have teenage daughters who go to friends' lake houses and beach houses, and you know, I feel confident that they can swim because they were a member of the swim team. And as was said, I mean, the Pleasantville swim team is like no other experience anywhere. I have been in the sports world my entire life. You have kids that are 4 cheering on kids who are 18. It's co-ed. They start very young and their first experience in the pool is in the swim team. If you came to the first practice, you probably look around and be like, whoa, what's going on here? Like nobody's really making 2 laps. You fast forward 6 weeks later and every kid is doing multiple strokes, learning how to tread water, to kick, to breathe, move their arms in order to swim. And, you know, thanks to you, the teenagers don't really love that 7 a.m. practice. By the time they get to be a teenager, they have swimming under their belt and know exactly what to do. I mean, sports today are ultra competitive. You know, kids age out, they're not taking it serious enough, and there's no more sports teams going. Not the swim team. You are a kid with special needs, you're a kid who struggles to swim, or you're a kid who is possibly bound for the Olympics, you're all together on one team. If you've ever gone to a meet, every child is taught to not get out of the pool or leave a race until each kid touches the wall. Although you may wait a really long time in some instances, you're encouraged to appreciate all abilities and applaud everyone for trying and finishing. It doesn't exist in any other sport today. I mean, you're watching the Olympics right now, and the biggest stories coming out are all about sportsmanship. And there isn't a race that goes by where the entire pool, both sides of the team, are applauding a child who is coming in last place just because they finished. It's the most incredible thing to watch. And, you know, once they've solidified these skills, it's all about access and muscle memory. And you're allowing these kids to learn how to swim for the rest of their lives. As mentioned, a few neighboring towns, although actually I don't think this was mentioned, a few neighboring towns don't have a town pool. I mean, Chappaqua, Somers, you know, and it's like those towns just spread out for the summer. They go to private pools, which can run from anywhere. I think CST 1 year for COVID we joined, it was $2,000 for the whole summer, all the way up to $50,000 if that's what you want to pay for a private pool. Obviously they've said Mount Pleasant pool, super crowded. I mean, busy days, it almost looks like, you know, Saxon Woods or a city pool. I mean, you're in the pool like this, you can't even move. Next up, I mean, this is a place where kids have their first job. And as a parent of teenagers, I can't express the importance of kids having jobs today. I mean, first of all, they're off their phones. Second of all, they're making eye contact. They're taking direction from people who they probably don't like what they're saying. And they're waking up for jobs that are not the greatest jobs, but they're earning money and feeling really good about themselves. And they're keeping their community safe, by watching and telling them what the rules are of the pool. Obviously we've talked about the memories I have are like long, hot summer days. Our AC in our old house didn't work that great. And I would just be like at 5 o'clock, back to PJs, let's go, ordering dinner, and we're not coming home until it's bedtime. And I'll admit, I use the pool less these days. Don't have as much of a reason to go. And I'm pulling up the other day to bring my daughter lunch, she was working there, and I see a woman, retiree, who lives alone, huge smile on her face, pulling out her stuff, and she was so happy to be there and talk to her friends that she was meeting there. I think part of being a community is understanding that some of your tax dollars are going to go to things that don't benefit you, and you have to be okay with that. I want others to get the joy out of the pool that I got. I want everyone's kids in Pleasantville to learn how to swim. I want young families to have a place to meet people who have kids the same age. I want my kids' friends to get a summer job. And I want my neighbor who's living alone to have a place to gather in the summer months. I want all those things, even though they don't necessarily benefit me. And I want to help pay for them because it holds such a special place in my heart and is such an important community asset. I think we can all attest that the town and the village is changing faster than anyone could have imagined. I mean, every week, another house is selling for a price that nobody thought ever was going to be possible. Another contractor breaks ground on a new project. Another road is being torn off and traffic is being diverted. Why shouldn't we also want to improve a community space that everyone in the town can enjoy at some point in their life? I don't think we want this town to just be apartment buildings, businesses, stores, and restaurants. It has to have community buildings that serve everyone. Right now, all I can think of is one, and that's the library. And I don't think anybody here would say, let's go to the library. It's just the size of our town is not big enough, is not small enough to only have one community space. We need more. And this is one that literally serves kids from the time they're born to, senior citizens. We don't want to add to the drowning statistics. Lack of access to a pool is a huge factor in children learning how to swim. Just being able to jump into your parents' arms gets the brain figuring out how to float. The answer is not a private club, and it's not the Mount Pleasant pool. The answer is an updated, beautiful town pool that everyone in the community can enjoy, gather, provide kids the ability to learn to swim, parents a chance to unwind, jobs for older kids to be proud about, and places for senior citizens to socialize. I urge you all to vote yes. I mean, the numbers are minimal in comparison to all the benefits that we're going to get for, another 50 years.
Hello, I'm Jennifer Goldblatt at 563 Manville. My husband Brian and I moved here in 2017 and have 2 children who will be attending BRS this fall. I'm also on the community playground committee. I'm going to echo a lot of what has already been said this evening, so I'll try to keep it brief. First, I'd like to clearly state that I support building a new pool in Pleasantville that will serve our village for years to come. Rate increases for taxes and dues, as discussed today, all seem reasonable and in line with what average families can shoulder. Here's why. There are many reasons why many of us move to the village, but a strong sense of community is one of the largest draws. Having the Burns, excellent restaurants, large farmers market, top-notch schools, multiple playgrounds, and a pool, all within walking distance for many of our community members, was a large part of what makes Pleasantville so very special. Our humble pool is an essential part of our community. Taking away affordable access to a safe, clean swimming environment where kids can practice important life and safety skills daily in the summer would be a detriment to young families and future residents of Pleasantville. Chatter Online has suggested that families consider the Mount Pleasant pool or securing a bond to a local tennis and pool club, but that's not possible for all families and also may be inconvenient. Not having a pool within the village would also drastically change our summer camp program. One I'd venture to say is one of the best deals and most convenient around Westchester. For those who have grand visions about new rec centers and expanded after-school program or other projects, I encourage you to talk to the capable and competent community leaders and employees on the ground who oversee our programs. People like Mindy Rogers, Mike Newman, Peter Shear, the trustees. They can all explain our space and infrastructure limitations and why we can't just allocate grants or funds from one project to another within the village. These other projects mentioned above are all very important issues that can be addressed at another time. Right now, our focus is the future of our failing pool. We need a long-term solution for our swimming facility, not just an expensive Band-Aid that will come off in the coming years. A new pool approved at next week's meeting is the only solution. Thank you to the board for facilitating this discussion. I know you often have a thankless job that can get to another level when residents get a little riled up over something. We appreciate you and all that you do. To the newest members of the board, please remember that it is your duty to represent the community as a whole. The majority of the people in this room, more than I've ever seen on a meeting, support replacing the pool with one that can serve our village for years to come and making that decision next week. We're expecting you to represent us next week when you vote. Thank you.
Yes.
The woman in the back that's been. Sorry.
The five of my family are here, so the Murphys from Iroquois Road, they're here.
One of your family members is wearing a medal.
She's actually my neighbor.
Oh.
But we have a lot of Iroquois Road
Yeah.
decisions here.
Well, congratulations, whatever that medal.
One thing I did want to say, we're, not long-term or multi-generational Pleasantville folks. We moved here in July of 2021. It was just kind of as folks were really coming out of COVID, not an easy time to move kids who were going to go into a random grade into a school district. And the pool was our community space. We started using the pool immediately. It served as our shower facility for a few weeks while we had some projects done at the house. And I joined the swim team. My second one soon followed. And they had friends, not only friends that would be in their classes, but friends that were a year or two older, a year or two younger. I made friends with parents in the area. It really welcomed us into the village and set the stage for what has been a fantastic couple of years so far in the village of Pleasantville. And I think that the financials behind the decision to move forward immediately with the pool make all the sense in the world. But besides that, everybody's, experiences with multi-generational use of the pool. And just in a couple of short years, 3 of my kids have learned to swim there. Anna talks about working there. Losing a summer or a few summers at this pool would be really a shame because there is nothing like it. Going to Mount Pleasant Pool for your summer is not the same type of experience. Here, we don't make play dates. We just go to the pool and they play with kids that are older, younger, it doesn't matter. And they have a great day. And it's, a fantastic way to make new friends within the community across different grades and join the swim team, learn to swim. And what do you girls want to say about the pool? Anything?
But our cousin goes to the Mount Pleasant something, and if we don't have a pool, I'm gonna be able to join that. And she doesn't even race at the swim team.
So the Mount Pleasant pool is so overcrowded that if your child is on the swim team, to the point of the mom who talked about all children being able to swim, no matter what their level of competitiveness. At the Mount Pleasant pool, that's not the case. There are so many children on the team that they are allowed to only swim exhibition freestyle because only the top 3 swimmers from each age group, from each gender, get to swim their strokes. And it's a really nice thing for your kid not to have to do a 10-month private swimming program to be able to race in a swim team race.
Your turn. You've been patient there. I apologize.
My name's Beth Kier, 232 Lake Street. I'm not a resident. 232 is the address of the pool. I request permission to speak as a director for the last 11 years from the board and from the community.
You have it.
I feel like I know you. We have not met, but if you come to the pool, you'll see the plaque with Jim's name on it. I also coach for Yorktown.
Oh,
No.
Oh.
And no, wait. And you were, what you spoke was true. You were our rival. Okay, we saw all Pleasantville's coming, you know, and we heard Kennedy's name. Okay, so that is very true history. Not being a resident, when I first drove through Pleasantville, back when I said, wow, there's some very pleasant houses in Pleasantville. It was a very nice community. And now having get to meet everybody for so long, I really do feel a part of you guys, even though I don't pay my taxes here. This can is from the pool. Okay, I am the one that will tell your children what they don't want to hear. I'm the boss of the lifeguards from over there. I will tell your children what to do, how to guard the pool. The work ethic of the children that we have now as lifeguards the last 2 years, most facilities are having trouble getting enough lifeguards for the pool. We have plenty. Okay, we have plenty. They're young. They're with us the second year this year, but their work ethic is very high. And I manage the lifeguards at Club Fit, and my employees are older than the lifeguard that I have right here. I pull my hair out at Club Fit, okay, with the work ethic that's there. The work ethic that is being raised in these children in this community is very obvious, and I appreciate it. And it shows with what level lifeguards are sitting in the pool. I will take a young lifeguard because we can teach them. We can teach them how to guard. We cannot teach them work ethic though. You know, that comes from within, and that comes with what's taught at home. So first off, I thank you for that because it makes my job a lot easier. Rival Jim Kennedy the plaque. I won't talk about taxes, but to me, $170 is a week's worth of groceries. You know, that increase in your taxes. I do like what you have to say about the drowning risks and things like that. If I had time in life, I would take the cause of that every public school should have a pool that has a pool in it, should have requirement for graduation that they take minimal life-saving skills to be able to do self-preservation. So if you drive by the pool right now tonight, there is caution tape and cones. What we call the coping stones, you guys might call the gutters. The gutters are falling in. They are falling in. We cannot repair them without draining the pool. I think it's like 18 inches or something Mario says. So they will not be fixed this season because we're not going to take that time to drain the pool that far, repair them, let them dry, fill it back up because we'll lose probably close to a week of the pool. So right now there are cones. We have caution tape. It is somewhat shocking how many people step over that caution tape. And I go flying out. I was talking right to somebody and I saw somebody, I said, excuse me, and I went flying because they stepped over that tape and those coping stones are rocking. Mario has them propped up as well as he can, but they cannot be stepped on. There have been, you guys have mentioned the flood. We have had a fire downstairs. We have had floods downstairs in the filter rooms. If you come to the pool, if you know me, I am a little bit more than anal about keeping the place clean. It drives me crazy that there's sand on the bottom of the pool. Okay, the sand is because of the antiquated filtration system. When we filter the pool, the sand is coming out into the pool. There's so many mechanical, like just needs that need to be addressed. When I first came to this pool, it was 2013. It was a very antiquated design, but I was coming from an antiquated design. There's a pool in Austin that's called Torville. And it's a very antiquated pool, but it's a very community-based pool. And things like that. I was a little surprised about the amount of cement at the pool. You know, I've gotten used to it. I don't notice it. But with the new design, there seems to be more grass. The filter room's coming upstairs. I think that will be grass area. It's a more park kind of look to it. And the design, for those that somebody used the word elaborate, there's the upgrades, it brings the pool into this century. You know, it's not just a rectangle hole in the ground. I personally too am concerned about the senior corner. And when this design first came out, the current pool in the back far corner, we referred lovingly to the senior corner. There's a member named Mary Slater who's been coming for more than 50 years. I personally made her a sign and I reserved her a chair. And everybody knows that if they can use the chair, if Mary's not there, but if Mary comes up, I'm kicking you out. Okay, so, but I think we can figure out the senior corner and move it down. But, you know, there's answers to all this. I can speak to that when I first started, the enrollment was on a decline. We were low. I don't have the exact numbers. I could ask Mike that, maybe give it to me, but I don't have the exact numbers. I can just tell you the visual of it. Every single year, there are new families there. Every single year, it's like, hey, oh, we just moved into the, I'm like, hey, my name's Beth, you know, welcome, can I show you around? It's like, oh, and then they meet, and whoever spoke about the school teachers being announced, that is like the week of the season. The little ones, look at that, oh, I'm not in your class, you know, and it's like, oh, but I'm in Mary's class, you know, that is a very highlight of the season. The employment for teams of the community, and that is important, you know, the kids that grow up there, they look forward to being the lifeguards. You know, several of the lifeguards that I have now are the ones that I yelled at maybe 5 or 6 years ago. You know, so they have a level of understanding, maybe not respect, but they have an understanding of me and what my expectations are. You know, and now they're sitting in those lifeguard chairs. So many people have talked about the swim team. The current swim team coach literally just walked in the door. We've had some great swim team coaches in the past. He is a really, I'm assuming you know Phil. He is a really big integral part of that swim team and its growth. His heart is there. There was a member that told me like maybe 2 years ago that he grew up swimming on swim teams and he learned more from watching Phil Deerstein coach than he did his entire, you owe me later. That he learned more from watching Phil than he did in his entire swimming career. So Phil's a community resident, but those are the kind of people that are here. Those are the kind of people that are committed to the pool. Yes, we get a paycheck. Yes, I'm not a resident, but I feel a part of this community. I really, really do. So the decision, it does, you guys have said this already, it does need to be made. It's not like do we or don't we. The question is, do we or don't we? You know, it's not like we can wait much longer. Every season, there's something more and more that goes wrong. I want to thank the board for bringing it to this point, you know, of having the design and everything, but you guys have said if it's kind of been kicked down the road a little bit, we are desperate for a decision to be made, you know, and thank you. See you on the board.
Good evening, Michael Inglis, 40 Willow Street. We moved to the village in 1997 and we immediately joined the pool, and they've been going every day since every summer, twice usually, morning and afternoon. So I'm a strong proponent of doing this now. But I wanted to look at it from a slightly different angle, which hasn't been raised, which is a financial angle, because I know that the board has to consider the financial health of the village. So I got some numbers from Eric. Thank you, Eric. I'd like to first say that the current bond balance of the village, I believe, is 2.6 million, which from a budget of 19+ million is about 13–14%. God help us if our federal government ever got to a debt of 14%, right? This village is in a damn good place, right? 14%. Can the mayor speak to how that compares to other villages in the area to have?
I think it's pretty good.
It's pretty good, yes. So
Pelham Manor has no debt. That's been their thing forever. How that works, I don't know.
I don't know how that works either.
I don't think they have a pool.
Capitalism doesn't work without debt, so I'm not sure how anything works without debt. Debt allows you to, use the money from the future. So certainly the village could afford to take on 6 million bond. It would still keep us below 50% debt to income.
Yeah, I mean, the key issue there is the percentage of your annual expenses that are going to service debt.
Yeah.
And, we're in a pretty solid position.
We're in a very good place.
But as you all know, it is gonna ramp that up. So,
Because I think people don't quite, think 6 million is a very big number, but actually don't really understand that it's quite manageable for our village. I do know that you've already approved a $5 billion bond. And I do also want to point out that the village has $8.1 million in an unreserved fund balance. So I'd like to ask the mayor, why wouldn't he consider just using the 1.03 million from the fund balance and then doing a 5
So,
million?
first off, it's not just me making these decisions.
Sure.
These two people
I'm the rubber stamp.
are critical factors there. So
Yeah,
we're in a very strong position financially, as you just described. We have a whole bunch of things going on at the moment, including a bunch of rather painful and unexpected infrastructure
Yes.
things. $700,000 to redo the drainage out of Soldiers and Sailors and all the way down Clark Street. Possibly $1.5 million for shoring up the brook
Mannahagan,
along
Old Brook.
Mannahagan.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of things flying around. What I implied at the outset, but to put a little more of a point on it is, we generally speaking initially acquire money through a bond anticipation note, which at some later point is rolled into permanent financing. It's possible that we might elect to borrow $6 million in a bond anticipation note, which is a short-term instrument, and at the point at which we roll it into permanent financing, borrow less and throw some cash at it. Some of that has to do with these various things that are flying around and we're not quite sure how they're gonna sort out.
Right.
So you're absolutely correct that we have some flexibility and that's a very happy position to be in. But we certainly wouldn't be in a position to, fund this through cash, even though we literally do have it.
no, I'm not
Would you
suggesting
add-
that.
Yeah,
I'm not suggesting that at all. No,
So,
but I
I
am
mean-
encouraging you
Right.
to go ahead with the project.
okay.
And I am encouraging you to realize that we actually are in many ways financially quite able to do that. Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Cosmo Morfilli, 104 Ashland. My wife just said, make it quick. I had a big speech, but I'll put it very summarized. I usually don't do this. I do it for my job. I don't do it for this, but I thought this would be a cause. Some of you may know who I am. Thank you again for affording me the opportunity to speak with you today. I stand before you as an advocate for the much needed and arguably overdue investment in our community, right? As you're well aware, the current pool has been a beloved fixture in our village since 1939. And I think it's served its purpose as an engineer. It definitely, we maxed out its useful life, which is kudos to the administration and to the folks at DPW and whoever takes care of the pool. Obviously, the safety and compliance that is important, the health and wellness, the community and the economic benefits of the pool. Like nobody talks about economic benefits. We could have guests could come, have lunch there, maybe shower at your host house and go out to dinner in the village, right? That brings economic dollars to the village. Legacy for future generations, right? By investing in a new pool, we're just not addressing the deterioration problem. We're creating a legacy for our kids, our grandkids. A new pool would become cherished landmark for the future generations, much like the original pool was for many of you folks that have been here for a long time. Personally, my wife and I have been here since 2011. We built several houses in Pleasantville. We invested a lot of money into living in Pleasantville. We should look at some of the regional examples. Like Dobbs Ferry just had a whole new pool redone and it looks beautiful. I spoke to the mayor down there. They're very happy about it. And it's been a total success. Personally, we have our own pool, right? But we still love to go to the pool. My kids, there's always kids at our pool. But I think we probably spend 60% to 70% of the time at the village pool and 30% of the time at our pool. So that's very, very important to us. Definitely do not mind the additional tax. Obviously, as we're probably in the top 20 houses of paying taxes in the village, so our tax bill will be a little bit more than $200, but I think it's a huge investment at a very, very low cost. I think, I'm not sure, I just kind of learned a little bit about this in the last couple of days, but I definitely do think, I'm hoping that there is a contingency in there. Over, the $6 million may include a contingency, may not include a contingency.
I mean, there's always something, right?
There's always something. As a builder developer person, I would encourage some contingency. And if that contingency is not used, perhaps, put it towards a second phase. I think there's opportunities in the area for a second phase, like a pergola, like one of the board members talked about a pergola that could be incorporated in the second phase of a potential project. We were talking, Troy and I were talking about it yesterday, perhaps, doing something with a second story at the clubhouse there for a rec center as a future, if land is scarce. There's other problems, actually parking and traffic, but that all needs to be studied. But pool's important. I think you've seen folks from every kind of, young, old, little kids, people that have pools, right? I think the whole village is for this. And like I said, I very rarely do this. In fact, this is the first time other than my own house. But when Troy and I spoke yesterday, and my wife said, "Why don't you go and say a couple of words," which I abbreviated. Trust me. I think I applaud the village for putting this together. Personally, as somebody that talks around the country about construction costs, I feel that we have reached some sort of plateau on construction costs. I think I see it out there where prices, unfortunately, are coming down a little bit, but they're not going to come down post pre-COVID levels. So I think probably now is the time to do it. And even if it comes down a little bit, I think the intangible value of doing it sooner than later, and the risk of having memories taken away from kids by having something catastrophic happening, outweighs some of the savings that potentially could happen in the next year or so. Let's remind ourselves as a student of economics, interest rates are going to go down. There's a potential that prices will still remain up, right? So I think this is the right time to do it, given all that. And I think doing a short-term bond and then pursuing debt at a later date is the obvious smart thing to do, because interest rates will be going down, and we'll get to a level where the long-term debt will be a good number for us. But thank you very much. Again,
Thank you.
Thanks everybody for the hard work.
Good evening, my name is Caitlin Salmon. For those who don't know me, I reside on 5 Robbins Road. I've been a member of the pool since my family first moved here in 2008, when I was about 4 years old, going on 5. Currently I'm in my 5th season as working as a lifeguard at this pool, my 4th season as both a swim instructor, as a certified water safety instructor, and I also coach the Pleasantville swim team. I've also been a member of the Pleasantville swim team personally since I was 8 years old. So unfortunately, I don't think I ever had the chance to be coached by the Kennedys, but I did go through several different coaches in my time as a swimmer. And I got to be coached by Phil Deerstein as well as work alongside him. First and foremost, financially, as Beth was saying earlier, I've been around the pool for a long time. The amount of patrons who are there currently is on the rise. I think that this is because we've already started to have improvements. We've had more families looking at, when families with young children are looking to come into villages and are looking at different places to go where they want to live and raise their families, they look for places with pools and communities. That's what we have at the Pleasantville pool. There's a huge support network there. Not just on Pleasantville swim team, but overall, I look around from the time I was very young, I had older kids who had been on swim team to lifeguards saying hi, reaching out. I got swim lessons at the Pleasantville swim team when I was younger, as did my brother, who I now also coach alongside with. You walk around now and I see all of the kids I coach on swim team. I'm currently a college student. When I'm home from college, I act as a substitute teacher for our elementary school. I see those kids, they know me. I get to see them. I see the elder members of our pool in our community also will talk to me. I get to watch them lap swim, have conversations with them, hear about their lives and what they're up to. So I do think that this is a project which is very important, but also looking at it from a swim team perspective. As the Murphy family talked about earlier, the comparison between having the Pleasantville swim team and the Mount Pleasant swim team is not a comparison. You have to have Pleasantville swim team. As someone who grew up as a member of this team, I've played on numerous different sports teams. Pick a sport I've probably played at some point in my life. I currently play collegiate field hockey, and I can say without a doubt that there has been no other team that I have felt a stronger sense of belonging to, or like I matter, than the Pleasantville swim team, both as a coach and as an athlete. And I think that does say a lot, because Pleasantville as a whole village does pride itself on its athletic programs. And when you talk about sportsmanship, you can try and have sportsmanship in all these teams, and you hope that all of your teams and your young athletes are doing the following practices of sportsmanship. But I can say that the swim team is where I learned what sportsmanship was and how to be a good sport. It also taught me several life lessons. I became more confident. I can tell you when I was younger, I probably would not have looked down the line been speaking up here tonight if it had not been for the Pleasantville swim team, which sounds silly, but having older kids support you. I swam when I was a coach, when I was still eligible to swim. I'm now 20, so I'm maxed out, but I have swim team kids cheering me on. I was able to swim the coaches relay last weekend. I had kids so excited to see me swim again, and there really is a sense of community, both within the team and within the pool itself. And I would safely argue that the Pleasantville pool, in essence, is the heart of this village. And I think that by investing the money that would go forward in this bond towards this new project, which has been worked on since 2017, is definitely the investment in strengthening the heart of this village and the community that is needed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Ellen Norton, 33 Hillview Drive. Wow, this is so amazing to be sitting here. For those of you on Zoom, like this was full tonight and every head is like nodding and you can just feel the spirit. I just want to mention it for anyone who's seeing it on camera and not in person. So
we don't get this when we're talking about sewer upgrades.
I just wanted to express, first of all, my gratitude to all of the tremendous amount of effort, thought, planning, advocacy, engineering, financials that has gone into this design. I mean, to me, it's a no-brainer to say yes. So I'll just start with that. Yes, yes, yes. Vote for it next week, go, big, big. There are so many great points made earlier tonight. I won't reiterate them in the interest of time, but I second them. 3 quotes from my 3 children are, all pools are great, but there's something special about this one. Number 2, the pool is a big part of our community. And number 3, I love the pool because I see my friends and I love swimming. I did want to make one, just I guess, general note or an anecdote story, that hadn't been mentioned tonight. So I hope you'll bear with me for just a moment. There's a story about the Montauk Lighthouse and it was eroding. It was going to every year, this was like, I don't know, many decades ago. Over the years, the Atlantic was tearing away at the foundation of the Montauk Lighthouse, this gorgeous, beautiful lighthouse. Year after year, it was just eroding away and people could, in the community, could kind of see, gosh, one day it's going to fall into the sea. Well, they didn't really know what to do about it, but one woman, this tiny Italian woman named Georgina Reed, she said, well, we can't just sit here and watch it go into the sea. She said, you know what might work is to build a little terrace structure around it and plant some native grasses, some native reeds. Funny, her name was Reed, but some native like waving grasses in the terrace structure. And she went there pretty much every other day or so with her husband, and they started planting these little reeds. And sooner or later, the Army Corps of Engineers kind of caught on. Well, wow, that's pretty clever what you're doing. You're helping the roots of these native grasses literally hold the sand into the banks so that this lighthouse doesn't tumble into the sea. So I have a little picture here of the difference between what grass, like just like the grass that we mow. And I'm very interested in this because I live on 33 Hillview Drive. I live like halfway through the hill. So if you look out my back window, you see the hill, right? You see the water coming and I'm like, maybe I should plant some native grasses, and I have. And they're really holding my hillside together. So every time it rains, I'm really not that worried because I know they, like straws, these long roots drink the water down instead of flooding down. And you can see part of my backyard didn't have it and part of it does. And it's noticeable. So I just wanted to mention that, not as like, obviously, this won't like, like maybe that little, there's might be an area with, like in between the playground and the pool. Like after the new pool is built, when the construction is done, I'm volunteering myself to come dig some native plants in there. To like maybe help the water go that way instead of that way.
I have a few other places we could use you in this.
It's really remarkable. I don't know if there's like a where the camera is where I can like show it to everyone, but it's remarkable
the eyes
difference.
of the owl here.
Oh, here, like.
Yeah.
So this side right here, oh, sorry, this side right here is like, oh, my mom's calling. This right here.
She's gotta give us her name and address before she speaks.
The grass, like the just regular grass that you have to have mown. And then this is in the middle is the native grass. And look how deep those roots go. They go really down deep. So just little food for thought, because I know we have a lot of problem solvers here.
Metaphor too.
So, and again, just huge gratitude to all of you working on this. And it's great to be a part of this community. Thank you.
Thank you. Before the next speaker, if we could just wait a minute, Nicole, who's been hanging out here even though she's under the weather, is about to need to lie down. So do you want to say something before you departed, Nicole?
Yeah, just quickly. Sorry, guys, I'm getting over COVID, and I think that my carriage is about to turn into a pumpkin. So I just wanted to say, first of all, that it's really moving to hear everybody speak. I love hearing everybody's stories. I'm sitting here at my desk getting teary-eyed at times. And I wanted to point one thing out quickly, which is that a couple times this phrase has been used of kicking this project down the road. And I want to make it clear, for those of you who don't know me, I've been on the village board for 7.5 years now. So I've been following this project all the way through. And as Troy alluded to earlier, building a municipal project of this type, particularly a pool, is an arduous project to undertake and requires jumping through quite a few hoops with the Army Corps of Engineers, with the Department of Health of New York State, and so on and so forth. So I just wanted to make it clear that this has been a long and sustained process, and to say that I agree with those of you who have said that we should move forward with the project at this time. And it's been very compelling to hear all the different voices on this. So I will tune in after the fact to what the rest of you have to say. Thank you very much for coming and for your patience and for sharing all of your stories.
Thanks, Nicole. All right, next speaker in there.
Edward Goralski, 90 Sunnyside Avenue. Anyone who has spent even a short amount of time at the Pleasantville Pool knows that it's an asset, but also they should know it is the Oakland Coliseum of swimming pools. Only we have better attendance than Oakland. So, unfortunately, Beth probably knows who's. I'm speaking for kind of a corner of the pool. I didn't pull the short straw. I was kind of given the short straw, and there are some concerns. I think everyone knows the pool needs to be replaced, but there are some concerns, and I just want to touch on them briefly. So, as we do move forward, these can be addressed. And the pool deck is said to be bigger in the new pool design, but what about usable deck space? In the design, there is a peninsula deck area between one end of the lap lanes and the shallow end of the pool. Will patrons want to sit in this space, which could be very busy and very wet? No. The new water slide and the area for those to use the slide will most probably impact deck space as well. Should a diving board be included in the redesign, it would also take away usable deck space. Additional lap lanes are listed as one of the new features. However, if a diving board is installed, would that not require some lanes to be closed during the operation of the diving board? Who has priority, lap swimmers or divers? Staffing. Lifeguard staffing seems to have stabilized over the past few years. But previously, in late August has proven to be challenging for staffing the lifeguard positions. This has resulted in the closing of the deep end for part of the day. Adding a water slide and possible diving board will require additional staffing. What are the plans to acquire and retain those additional positions? Will keeping the entirety of the main pool open be a priority over keeping the water slide open? Pool chairs. The availability of chairs has become an issue on days with large attendance. Demand exceeds supply most weekends. There currently seems to be fewer than 10 high-seated chairs. Older pool members and those with mobility issues seek out these chairs. Will more chairs, high-seated, low-seated, and lounges be added next season? Parking. Parking at the pool is almost always an issue. Why not? It's Pleasantville. Especially on days, again, with large attendance. Some drivers seem challenged to park within the line. My observation is that some early arrivals for swimming lessons do not pay close attention when they are on or over the line because the pool is not yet open. There's plenty of places to park. However, when the pool does open, a car parked over the line can cascade the problem down the line of parking spaces. With the new playground at the park, there appears to be more park goers parking to access the park. Are there any plans to increase parking? And finally, on the June 19th and July 4th holidays this year, crowds at the pool were tremendous. People enjoyed cooling off and socializing at our village pool. I believe this indicates that the basic layout of the current pool can adequately serve the village and the pool population. Given the rising cost of the pool design, if some features need to be cut, I do not think it would impact attendance in the long run. However, we do need a pool for the next generations. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me just touch on a couple of those things. The parking between the lines is a problem worldwide. But on the subject of parking, there's no plan at the moment to change the parking arrangements. We've got the parking lot that we have, the New York State area across the street, which we can use. And then, as has always been the case, cars make their way on the grassy area all the way down Lake Street. So I think that's kind of what we've got. I don't see an opportunity to expand parking. I will say, I think it's worked out okay. You may have to walk farther than you might wish, but I don't think that and correct me if I'm wrong, we're in a situation where people come to the pool and say they have to leave because there was no place to park. As far as the slide and the diving board are concerned, obviously there are operational issues there. One question was whether we should actually have the diving board. And that remains a question. Clearly, it couldn't be open at all times, would require supervision, and as you rightly point out, it would knock out some diving lanes. What we've committed to so far is to dig the pool deep enough that it meets code to have a diving board. And then whether we actually buy that now or not is a conversation to be had. Obviously, the cost of the board is not all that significant, but what we've committed to is to have a pool that could have a diving. The operations that might have a comment on the water slide. Kids are very excited about it as they might be. As you might imagine, I imagine there would be times when we just broke that off and you couldn't use it because it would require some supervision. But overall, I don't think the expectation is that we would need a lot more staff than we have to run the current pool. Fair to say, Beth?
No.
Yeah.
They're all valid. It's all about
Yeah.
his concern. But if I could meet with Jim and Troy over some of what he's talking about deck space, I've got suggestions.
Yeah.
Because the deck space is an issue, and if
Right.
we're going to increase by 20%, we're gonna encourage more people and things like
Yeah.
that, but I think there's answers to it all.
Okay. And then as far as furniture is concerned, that falls in the category of an unfunded mandate that we're aware of. But if there's anything good about it costing so much to build a pool, the furniture doesn't look so bad. So we know. Thank you. Other speakers?
Good evening, Pam Papish, 21 Guyan Street.
And Vicki Nielsen, 21 Guyan Street.
I'll be very brief, it's 9 o'clock. We just want to say that we really encourage you to adopt this proposal. We've been in Pleasantville for 16 years with our 3 kids. We have moved from the kiddie pool with them to the shallow, to the deep end with them. They were all on the swim team and had great experiences. One is currently working as a lifeguard. I'm one of the early morning swimmers, and it's one of the joys of my day. It really is, just being in the water, being able to see the sky, being outdoors. It's a real privilege and a treat. And, it's been so important to our family and to everybody's family, I think, here in the room. We don't want to lose that experience. We want to have that for subsequent generations.
I don't like to swim. And I really echo what Kathy said, like, part of being part of this community is like sometimes paying for things that mean a lot to other people, even if they don't mean as much to you. And I do think, the pool's been a huge part of our family. And I also just wanted to say, like, being here has been, it's sort of like, we have to go to this meeting, but it's just been like such a nice feeling of community and what I love about Pleasantville. And I just also want to voice my appreciation to the board for like having this space for us to speak. It seems like people are always fighting with each other on Facebook. I'm always like, you could go to the board meeting. And so I just wanted to thank you for like allowing the community to come out and show its support in this way. And hope that you vote yes.
Thank you.
And also just many, many thanks to all the members of the pool committee for all of your work and dedication. I really appreciate it.
All right. Yes, please.
Bar 15 Chestnut Street. I wasn't planning to speak, but I feel like I could just add one unique piece to this. As mom of a special needs kid, and I think I can unofficially speak for the special needs kids at the pool. There are very few places where we don't have to explain our children to other people, and we don't have to at the pool. And it's just wonderful that like people know her and they're okay with it. And if I go to Mount Pleasant, I have to constantly intervene and pull her back, and that doesn't happen here. So just another wonderful thing about the pool community.
Thank you for that. All right, anybody else in the room? Is there anyone on Zoom? If you wanted to say something, you can raise your hand in the participant window. I see no raised hands. Although we've had a lot of people on Zoom, we're down to 24 at one point, they were high up near 50, so.
Troy, if he wants to speak.
Oh, yeah, Troy, yes, we're in this hole.
If there are other comments, I just wanted to speak for the pool task force. There's many of us here tonight. The board throughout this process has been fantastic to work with, as well as the folks in the village office, Eric and Noreen and Alyssa. And thank you, as Vicky said, for giving us 2 hours of your night tonight. But it's also been many, many more hours, and we appreciate your support for this project. Thank you.
Well, right back at you. I mean, as you know, this community has a long tradition of volunteerism, and we've had many, many, many great committees that have achieved many great things. You guys have been off the charts good. And as I think was evident tonight, you know, dating back to the survey and the analysis and your engagement throughout the whole design process. So I will say, I've lived here pushing 40 years, and my kids were on the swim team, although never very good swimmers, but same story, a great thing for them. And my day job office is downtown, and the painful thing for me was I know what goes on up there at the pool at 7 a.m. And I know all that's gone on, and I know that Jim Kennedy is up there at 6:45, probably fresh off a run to Vermont and back. And then he does that, and then I'm on my way to work, and it's like, oh, there's Jim, and he's all dressed, and he spin polished, he's headed to the train, and I know how much he has already done. It makes me feel inadequate. I'm like, please, why can't I do that? So, I mean, that's just evidence of what you have all heard in so many ways. The Kennedy family, the entire committee, Troy, et cetera. You know, thank you, Ed. Great to have some suggestions, some of which I'm sure we can act on. And thanks for such a good vibe. It can't, if there was anyone here intending to say they didn't want to pool, it probably didn't feel good to say it. So, any last comments from anybody?
Yeah, I want to say something on a related but not the same topic, which is just, it has been a tough couple of years, you know, for all of us and in the village too. We all went through this trauma, whether you're parents or, you know, living with partners or living alone or senior or whatever. The pandemic was just a horrible time for everyone. There's been a lot of construction, a lot of changes downtown. Even for people who may have supported where we get, the process of getting there has not been fun. People are driving more than ever. We have like 100 fewer kids in our school than we did 20 years ago, and twice as much traffic. So, you know, it's tough to see this village through this transformation that we're going through. And the only thing I would ask you to do is to sort of support each other and, you know, tell us when you see things and help us understand how to do better, but also be part of the solution, you know. And because I think that we can all come through all of this really well together if we all take responsibility for it. But thank you all for coming out tonight.
Okay, so as I reported at the outset, we have our regular board meeting on Monday, August 12, which is a week and a half from now. And that's the meeting in which we would elect to proceed. Assuming we do that, we give the contractor who's the low bidder the high sign to start getting their ducks in a row. And the hope and the cautiously optimistic prediction is we get started right after Labor Day. As long as we don't have some really difficult winter, that they believe they can be opening the pool Memorial Day. There may be some punch list items still in the works, but all of that is obviously affected by what happens with the weather, but we're optimistic that could be the case. And so stay tuned. It's as you might imagine, we all sit here in the circumstance of constantly trying to find ways to keep Pleasantville, and that's exactly what all of you have talked about. And at the same time, worrying that a community that once was more middle of the road economically is skewing to a world that's quite a bit more expensive. None of us are in control of that overall, but despite the fact that a new pool is a tax increase for all, it also feels, as I said at the outset, like a community commitment for a place that everybody goes to. I have often returned to this speech that Bill Moyers made many years ago. He talked about his upbringing in Oklahoma, where I think his father never got past the 4th grade, his mother never passed the 8th grade. And he said, despite the fact that his was one of the poorest families in their town in Oklahoma, he went to the same schools and played in the same parks and played baseball on the same sandlot field as the richest families. And as a child, it never crossed his mind to think that we, the people, didn't include them. So that's a little bit grand for our circumstance, but our little Pleasantville piece of it, at least for me, is what you have all voiced. So thank you for that. Thank you. All right, we're done.